Hello and welcome to the 6th magazine monologue. Today's monologue will be coming from Time magazine, the May 10th, May 17th double issue, headlined 100 Most Influential Companies. The title of the article is Shifting the Narrative. It was written by Lucy Feldman, who is a senior editor at Time magazine. The article is a profile of Reese Witherspoon's media company called Hello Sunshine. It is not a formal interview. It appears to be an article written after an interview was conducted with Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is a famous movie actress. She Legally Blonde, Walk the Line, etc. She has now transitioned into... She still acts, but she also has transitioned into more of like a producer kind of role. I'm not extensively familiar with media terminology, so like if she's not a producer technically, I apologize, but she does work on creating and sponsoring works now. So Hello Sunshine has a mission to focus on creating and sponsoring works that center around women. The goal of this is to increase diversity in the media space, which, no surprise, as almost every aspect of society in the Western world is pretty white male dominated. This is being filmed around the same time that the Golden Globes blowback is starting to happen. That's just another example of the media sphere being dominated by white men, and more specifically straight white men, but white men. So Hello Sunshine's goal is to increase diversity by focusing on women. And Reese Witherspoon has a quote in the article, and it says, "I want to make a lot of money for a lot of women." She's done quite well at that. So since the start of Hello Sunshine, and then also a subpart of that, the Reese's Book Club, which is just basically a way that you can get a stamp of approval from Reese Witherspoon, and it'll help sell your book. Basically, she will be endorsing your book. She has endorsed 54 novels or books. I don't actually know if they're all novels, but 54 books, over 30 of which have reached the New York Times bestseller. And there's an anecdote within here that Reese Witherspoon received a text from... It said friend, which I'm certain they are friendly, but it was more about the fact that this woman who had texted Reese Witherspoon was one of the authors that her book had been endorsed. And she sent Reese Witherspoon a text including a picture of a home that she just bought. And she was the first homeowner in her family. So she's done well at producing wealth for women. One thing that the article talks about, and this comes directly from, I assume, the conversations with Reese Witherspoon, is that Hello Sunshine itself needs to do better at diversity and inclusivity, because over 2/3 of the books that have been recommended by Reese's Book Club have been by white female authors. And I believe it stated, and I could be misremembering this, but I believe it stated in the article that only one executive at Hello Sunshine is a woman of color. And so they acknowledge they need to do better at this. In furthering this goal, what they have done is created a more open atmosphere where they say that they occasionally have uncomfortable conversations, but these uncomfortable conversations are what allow people to grow and learn, which I think that we can all relate to, right? Like, I'm assuming everybody can think of a time in their life where they had a really uncomfortable conversation, be it work or personal or romantic or parents or kids or anything. And I would be willing to bet money that those conversations helped you grow as a person, whether it could be getting called out for bias, or if you have children that are now getting older, there's like that whole transition period of like treating them like an adult versus a child, or any number of examples. Further, they have started something called the Lit Up. I don't know the official name, but it was Lit Up, and competition is what I'll call it. They are going to help further and sponsor the careers of 25 women from underrepresented minority groups. They didn't specify what those groups are. You could probably guess Black, Hispanic, Asian American, transgender, lesbian, etc. Like just underrepresented groups. I personally read as non-white, but that might not be entirely accurate. Which is good. I mean, more diversity is always better, right? Like diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, diversity of opinion. Yeah, all in all, it was an enjoyable article, which I'm only going to do a couple of articles from this Time magazine because a lot of these are insanely short. So the 100 most influential companies, like you just flip, and I got right here one of the articles is this long, and I'm not even going to call it an article, but it's a blurb about a company. There are a few articles in here that are longer. Notably, there's one on the George Floyd case and one on the Indian coronavirus pandemic. I say like it's India only, but India's recent issues. I'm probably not going to do those only because they are already dated. Like I got this magazine a week and a half ago, and I can basically guarantee all of the numbers in the India article are going to be vastly outdated, like just wrong at this point. And then the George Floyd case, I feel like was extensively covered by media. If somebody would like me to actually talk about that article, I would be more than happy to do so. But my goal is to do diversity and maybe touch on topics that people aren't as familiar with. That said, Shifting the Narrative by Lucy Feldman. All in all, enjoyable. I wouldn't say it brought anything groundbreaking to mind, though. I was expecting maybe a little bit more specifically about Hello Sunshine and or Reese Witherspoon. It does talk about them, but not so much in the context of, like, what they do or what they're doing right now. You know, they maybe mention one or two TV shows, I think, that are getting produced by Hello Sunshine. They talked about 54 books that had been recommended by the Reese's Book Club. They briefly talked about that one author, but I think it would have been nice to have... I'm a numbers guy, I'm a stats guy, so this is my own bias, and I'm very aware that it was a good article, but this is just me. I would have just loved numbers saying something like, hey, of the 54 books that they've recommended, 30 were on New York Times bestseller. They had that, but then followed up with being like, oh, they sold 1 million copies, or... the quote you had in there that Reese Witherspoon wants to create a lot of wealth for a lot of women, have something like, between actresses and authors and whatever, Hello Sunshine predicts that it has created $100 million of net worth in the last 5 years, or something like that. But yeah,